Hi, hello everyone. Tony Carroll here with the Mayday Monday for February 2023. Before we get into this month's feature, I do want to mention the names of those firefighters we have lost in the line of duty since the last time we were together. Chief Larry Peasley of the Maroa, Illinois Fire Department suffered a heart attack while responding to a fire call. The heart attack occurred in December. He passed away in early January. Clallam County, Washington, Captain Chad Cate was found deceased in his bunk at work. Kevin Daly, a safety officer for the Middleport Fire Department, I think that's in Ohio, was killed in a fire truck crash. And firefighter Bob Gardner from the Richmond, Carolina Fire District in Rhode Island suffered an apparent heart attack. Please, if you will, remember all of these members, remember their families, and remember their fire departments as they work through these difficult times. And that brings us to 4 firefighters who have died in the line of duty in 2023. Tonight, we're not talking about a line of duty death. We got another close call. And as you know, with 2023 Mayday Mondays, we kind of want to highlight some of these interesting stories that maybe didn't get the news because fortunately the person involved survived. With that, we have another Texas story. We did a lot of Texas people last year. Well, we're going to have February this month is going to be another Texas story. So this one comes from Lubbock, Texas, and with us to tell his story is Captain Phillip Grandon. Captain, will you take some time now, give us a brief bio, introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. First, just really appreciate you having me on. Love what you're doing. I kind of looked a little bit into you the last few days after you invited me to come on here, and a lot of great stories and you putting your story out there and just doing what you're doing, trying to help people when our guys are in trouble. So that's great. So anyway, about me though, from West Texas, the part of Texas, kind of the bottom of the panhandle is where I'm from. Small oil field town is where I grew up. Never really wanted to be a firefighter until I was a senior in high school, and my sister was dating a firefighter, and he just kind of told me all about the job, and man, I was hooked. I dropped my plans to go to college and just pursued the fire service right out of high school, and got on Lubbock in 2008, and just have really loved the fire service. So I'm trying to experience as much as I can, just different specialty teams, and been promoting through the ranks. And right now I'm in the training division, and I've been here for 3 years, and I will be going back out on shift here pretty soon, hopefully to a truck, and so I can experience that, because when I left I was engine lieutenant. So but as far as away from the fire station, I also run a college fire academy program as well. I love to teach, just the training side of it I really have a passion for, and married, have 2 beautiful daughters, and just spend a lot of time with my family when I'm not here. So just trying to soak all that in, and we like to travel, and we're chasing kids, 2 young girls with sports and all that stuff. So but that's pretty much it.
No, Philip, I think that's a fraternity that we're in, right? I got 3 old girls and a wife. So 4 girls that I'm chasing, and people ask me all the time, hey, how's your family? And they're out of control, right? I mean, but that's how we've raised them. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate your kind words about Mayday Monday. And it is just trying to help, right? Just trying to get some word out, learn about these things, because we've forgotten a lot about a lot of line of duty deaths and about a lot of incidents. So I think we can continue to learn from them. So we're trying to do that all the time, every month. So with that, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the blue card real quick. That's how I learned about your incident. I was looking at the blue card website on podcasts, and there was a Lubbock Mayday, I think is what it was titled. And I'm like, oh, well, I definitely want to listen to that. So when I dug into it, man, I was amazed. I just can't I can't get over, I can't wrap my head around a cotton warehouse fire that burns for days. And, you know, when you're in a hot, smoky environment and all it is white, I can't, it's tough to figure out, but we'll get to that in a minute. First thing I want to start off real quick and give us a little background on Lubbock, Texas.
So Lubbock's a big agriculture town, and home tech. So I've ever heard of the Red Raiders. That's where we are. And then, but yeah, lots of just flat land. I call it the brown ocean because after everything is plowed and the fields are bare, it's a lot of brown and we get a lot of dust storms. But yeah, a lot of the cotton in the country comes from this area, and so we do store a lot of cotton in the city. But other than the town, we've got about I guess the last census, I don't know, 260 to 70,000 in that range. We have with the college residents, we run about 300,000 probably average around here population, and we have 19 fire stations. We're working on station 20 right now, and a little over 400 firefighters. And as far as the town is not like we don't have like a lot of outdoorsy things, lakes, rivers, streams. Like I said, we're just kind of out here on the plains, but it's a nice place to raise a family. We're a pretty friendly town, and as far as fires go in our fire department, I guess we're just like pretty much anywhere else, except we don't have a whole lot of kind of like probably what y'all are used to as far as construction goes. Like with the residential stuff, we don't have a whole lot of row houses or these kind of townhomes that are packed in there. We have a lot of single family dwellings that have a little space in between. We are getting a lot more very large houses built here in this area. We're growing pretty rapidly in the last few years and getting a lot more large homes, but not a whole lot of high rises. I mean, our downtown's pretty small, and we have some at the college, but that's pretty much it.
Well, so on Lubbock, I did some little research there, and you call that West Texas? That's not West Texas, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of strange because I mean, like, and El Paso area is technically West Texas. We call it West Texas because we're there's a lot of West in Texas. So, but really, like, we're the South Plains is what our area is really called, and kind of just the bottom of that Panhandle area. And but I mean, yeah, people from around here say we're West Texas. So
I got you. So I was in Parker County last year. I guess it was last year, maybe February timeframe. And it seemed very brown. I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know if I was thinking it'd be green, but it was definitely dust and brown. That's what you got there?
Yeah, a lot of it. Just not a whole lot of trees once you get outside of the city limits. It's a lot of farmland, and then just kind of grassland too. So, but because we have so many plowed fields in this area, just when the wind blows, which is quite often, we do get quite a few dust storms, and especially like the springtime is when we get a lot of our dust storms, and then sometimes in the later fall too. So it's really pretty. Y'all should come out and check it out.
Yeah, I'd like to. So Texas Tech, you got Texas Tech there, and another famous was Buddy Holly, huh? He came from Lubbock. Do you know?
Didn't obviously his career didn't last long, but yeah, that's one of the famous things known for Lubbock. So,
what can you tell me anything about the Lubbock Lights?
Lubbock Lights? No, I don't. So I've heard about it. I don't really know much though. Something with aliens, right, or something like that.
Yeah. For those everybody out there, was a UFO case, I think, from the 50s, pretty famous. And if you want to know about that, you can Google Lubbock Lights. But cool. All right. So you kind of gave me the rundown of the fire department there. You jumped ahead of me a little bit, but you say 19 stations. You're building the 20 station. How many engines and trucks do you have?
So one of those stations is the airport. So technically, I guess right now we have 18 engines and 5 truck companies. And I guess of the 3 engines though, 3 of them are Quints, and we kind of, you know, claim those. They're whatever. We're not big fans of the Quints, but we tried them out. And then we have hazmat team, heavy rescue team, dive team, and what our wildland team is called. It's part of TIFMAS, which is basically like a state mutual aid type thing that they can respond anywhere in the state. And we run a couple of brush trucks around here. We don't have a whole lot of grasslands like further up north. Like I said, our wildland fires or grass fires are going to meet a highway or a cotton field eventually. So we don't have a big, huge, our wildland problem is not very bad here.
All right, cool. So class 1 fire department. I know that's not probably doesn't make you a big deal for you, but definitely is for, you know, for fire departments around here. That you guys definitely, right? You got to get a lot of resources. You got to people and things like that. So that's a good thing to you can hang your hat on. It doesn't do much for putting the fire out, but class 1 it's only a few fire departments have that. All right, let's get into your story here. Is this kind of what the kind of place you went to? Was something like this?
So this one, I mean, it's somewhat similar. The ones we did have a fire in these, just one just like this, a month before the one that I was involved in. So the one that I was in were just a couple or a little bit down the road, and they're a little taller than these. These are a little, you know, you can kind of tell, but still large metal building is basically what you're dealing with. So the one that I was particularly in was, I want to say 100 by 360 foot, and built in the 50s, so heavy gauge steel. And it did have a sprinkler. Like some of these don't have sprinklers and some of them do. You just kind of, just depends. So, but like your picture there though, that's what they do. They stack the cotton in rows, and
So this is not the cotton that was in this place is not like the cotton we would use in clothing, right? Was this like the waste cotton?
So there's different grades, and the particular buildings that we were dealing with that we were having so much problem was it's called moat, and moat is kind of the very low grade. What I've heard is they send this stuff to like Brazil is the main buyer, and they make like socks out of it. And so, but it was mixed in with good grade cotton as well. And but the moat it's kind of crazy. It's almost like dryer lint. I mean, it's a little bit better than dryer lint, I guess. So it burned a lot more intensely than the high quality grade that would be wrapped in plastic or whatever. So it was something we had never really dealt with before, and it'd make an impressive fire.
But you guys is there like a season of the year where you have a lot of cotton warehouse fires, or is it all year long?
No, so typically they'll start stripping the cotton in the fall, and when they start putting in warehouses is usually, and I'm not 100% sure when the first bales hit, but anywhere from like November, December, January, February is kind of when, maybe even March, I don't know. But these months are whenever the warehouses are getting full of the cotton. And as they strip it, it goes to compresses so they can bale it, and then they store it. And then part of the year they're empty. So that's just, there's definitely that time period, fall to winter is when we have the fires.
And these places are like chock full. I mean, it's top to bottom of these bales of cotton.
Yes, sir. And actually, your picture right there, where Engine 5 is, that's the building that I was in. So that's the one, yeah. And they'll be full of several thousand bales, and it's just, they're, like I said, they're in and out. So, but
and how tall
lot of fuel.
these things?
It varies, but the moats, they would be stacked about 20 feet high.
20
And
feet high. The
blocks-
moat, how is the bale 20 feet or is it like 5 feet? They stack 4 of them.
Yeah, so one bale would probably be, and I'm just kind of guessing here, around 2.5 to 3 feet tall, maybe, and about 5 feet long by another 2 feet wide. Like I said, that's just kind of a guess, but because there's different, like the higher quality cotton is packed a little taller, so they're about 4.5, 5 feet tall. And the moats are kind of bigger blocks, and they would stack them, I mean, 20 feet high. So it's not probably the most stable stacks. But they would stack them in big kind of blocks where they could drive forklifts on both sides, and then they would just start piling them up, you know, like I said, making lanes in between, and these big square stacks of a lot of bales of cotton. And typically they weigh 500 to 600 pounds. So
A bale
you
does?
don't want one. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, you definitely don't want one falling on you.
So what starts these fires? Is it all like static? Is it static electricity? Is there lightning strikes? What causes this?
So usually it's in whenever they bell it and compress it, and I'm not 100% sure how that whole process works, but sometimes they'll have something in the mechanical system will either be creating a spark, and it doesn't have to be a lot of sparks. It just gets captured just right in that cotton, and once they bell it, if that spark grows, it takes a while to figure it out because it just sits there and builds inside that bell. There's enough oxygen in there that it'll just slowly grow, and the heat will get more and more and more until finally you'll have some products of combustion, which a lot of these cotton warehouses will catch it pretty quickly, but they call it a hot bell though. And it could take days to maybe even a week or two before it's discovered. So they go in there and they stick several hundred bells in a stack, and you may not even know that you have a hot bell in there until it's too late.
So it comes out of like the packer, but with something burning in it.
Yes, sir. That's usually how they start. So
wow. That's crazy. And these things just burn for days.
Yes, it is very difficult to put out cotton. I mean, we put just thousands and thousands of gallons on these things trying to put them out. And really, you don't even, it's almost like they don't go out. They had to dig big holes and basically bury it to get it out all the way. And I mean, it's pretty crazy how this stuff can just smolder forever.
And you guys will spend a day at the warehouse?
So it kind of depended on how much was burning, but typically these aren't quick fires by any means. So I would say the average cotton warehouse fire, if we have a lot of cotton on fire at it, will take for sure about a week. Because we're just sitting there basically keeping it suppressed enough to where once the air clears up and we can go inside, which really it's front end loaders or whatever tractor's going in and taking it out bucket by bucket, putting it in a truck, and they haul it off and bury it somewhere. And it's not a fun process, and we have to have someone there 24 hours a day for flare-ups and protecting any exposures. So we would be out there in the middle of the night just throwing water on it just to try to keep it down till morning when the crew could come in and start excavating it. But in the wintertime, nice and cold. When down here in Texas, I'm sure y'all are like, whatever, winter, but we would have ice on our gear in the middle of the night. And yeah, we didn't enjoy that too much.
So this was February of 2018. So pretty cold, I guess, for Texas.
Yes, sir. The first cotton warehouse we had was late December, and that kind of kicked off this whole season. I don't think it's ever been this bad. We might have one cotton warehouse fire a year. This one it was just back to back to back. And so my first new area here was where all the cotton warehouses were. So we were at them every shift for weeks, and you get a little frustrated with it because work starts to not be as fun when you're having to go spend hours and hours and hours at these things, and just cold and all through the night. And I mean, part of the job sometimes, but I was ready for them to be over.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. So what do you guys? Do you guys send like a whole assignment on when it comes out?
Yes, sir. So whenever the first, like when we get the call for a cotton warehouse, we would pull up, and I mean, the thing's just rolling smoke out of it. And depending on if it was sprinkled or not would kind of dictate what we do. But several of them, I mean, we would get a structure response. So our structure response here is 4 engines, a truck, and then 2 battalion chief units. And then we would call it whatever else we needed. But some of these, I mean, the flames were rolling out the door and the windows because there was just so much on fire. So those are pretty easy choices. I mean, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You just start throwing water at it from the outside. And then protect exposures, and we would be there for days doing this. So, and obviously they wouldn't burn like this for days, but they could burn like this for a little while. I mean, several hours.
So you get there, you knock it down, and then somebody stays there to just keep lobbing water on it.
Yes, sir.
Wow. So this one, I understand there was another fire like already going on down the warehouse row.
Yes, sir. So there was another engine babysitting a warehouse like that had already been controlled, and one of the night watch people came by and told them that another one was on fire. And so they left that one to go check this one out, and had dispatch, told dispatch to get a structure response going. So when we were hopping in the engine, because it was just like 4 blocks away from the station, maybe, or not too far, they had called on scene, which kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting somebody to already be there. And so they gave a size up and said that there was smoke coming from the top, and but this one was sprinkler controlled, so we didn't have the flames coming out from everywhere.
I got you. So you get there and full assignment, and because you didn't pinpoint the fire, it wasn't rolling out the windows. You had to go inside.
Yes, sir. So that was the idea, and I mean, for everybody just to kind of understand, this wasn't like something we just knock the doors in and go in and start fighting fire. We took our time kind of on the outside and kept the building shut, and it was a pretty cold morning. I would say, I don't know, 15 degrees this morning. So the building cold, we had our thermal imagers and we're scanning the outside to kind of just see if we could pinpoint where the heat was coming from. And we were able to tell one section of the building was kind of in the middle. It's about 30 degrees warmer than the rest of it. So we kind of had an idea, it's probably right here. And the thing with these cotton warehouse fires, though, is when they're sprinkler control, it's like, do you have 10 bells on fire, or do you have 100? So that's kind of why we went inside, was just to really see what we had going on. And after we had went and tied into a hydrant, came back and figured out and kind of sized it up and everything, that's whenever command made the decision to send us in just to see what was going on. And that was our assignment, was get eyes on the fire. And I tell everybody, this was the 6th cotton warehouse fire we'd had in 2 months. I was tired of going to these things, so I was not too thrilled about doing this again. And that played into, I think, why I got ourselves in some trouble too. So I'll talk about that here in a minute.
So all right, 3-man engine, driver, you and a firefighter.
We run 4-man minimum on everything, so trucks and engines we have 4.
So your three guys, driver stays, 3 guys take a line and advance in. What was it, a man door? Was it a roll-up door? Did you have to cut a hole and go in?
So we had a man door next to a roll-up. We kept the roll-up shut, and I had just one hosman with me at the time of we made entry. The other one was down the road and coming back to meet us, but because he was at the hydrant. And I almost want to say too that he had something wrong with his air pack, so he wasn't able to go in with us the first time. So me and my firefighter, we go in. We knew we had to go left because that's where the direction of the heat was from the outside scan. But right when we entered the doors, I mean, just extremely thick gray smoke. Couldn't see anything, and the building's dark too. So I told my firefighter, I said, he was on the nozzle, and I was beside him. I said, we cannot let go of this hand line. We have to stay on it the whole time, just because I knew we were going into a very large building. And having been in them before, I kind of knew the layout of them. I mean, I know there's stacks of cotton all around us. So, but we made a hard left right along the wall just kind of see what would happen. Because I pulled my stick up, and I mean, just white. I mean, I could look at the ground and I could see like my feet or the hose line had, because it was a little hot. But I mean, as far as using it, the smoke was that cold. And also I think the cotton, just everything being white in there, the tick was pretty much useless. So we just start going, and along the wall, then we have to make a right because there's a wall of cotton. And so we start to make our way down, and just as we're going, we just get kind of horseshoed basically we're in the middle of a horseshoe of stacked cotton. And I noticed that there's a lot of water pulled up too. So the sprinklers have been going off for a little while because there's a lot of water building up. But as far as the water hitting the cotton, it usually just runs off of it. These things are so tightly packed in, they don't absorb it really well. So, because I would see like rivers running out of these buildings when we were throwing lots of water in them and just watching it pass by the cotton. So it's not like these things swell up. I mean, they probably do a little bit, but it's not like what you would think. They don't absorb it real well.
So, all right. So you've made a right. Now you feel that you think you made it, like you were going back towards where you came in?
It was kind of hard to tell, but I figured, I was like, I think we're kind of in a horseshoe here. And so my firefighter air was kind of getting around half a bottle, and I told him that we would go ahead and just back out because we were moving pretty slow, and just from what I could tell,
right?
I have not found any heat sources, nothing. It's just still really thick smoke, no heat. So like, let's get out of here and try to figure this out a little better. And so we go out, we change bottles. I talk to command, and they're
all the way out too.
Yes, sir. And we take the hose line, and we meet with, there's a night watchman there, and he told me the layout of the building. He said, if you go straight out the man door or through the man door, he said there's a forklift park kind of in the middle, and there's a lane that runs through the middle of the building from end to end so that forklift can drive through. And so I was like, okay, so we'll go back in and we'll try to find this forklift, and we'll make a turn at the forklift in that middle lane. And so that's what we did. So I had my two firefighters this time, and we go through down the middle, and sure enough, we come up on the forklift. Couldn't see it until we were right up on it. So I tell my one firefighter to stay at the forklift so he can feed us hose around it. So we were making a hard turn, and we had what the hose that we took was a Cleveland load. So we had 1 3/4, 100 foot of 1 3/4 on a gated wide to 2.5 inch. So he was having to pull some 2.5 inch until we got there. And I can't remember exactly how much hose it was that we had inside the building. Obviously it was about 50 feet one way, and then we turned, and I want to say it was about 80 feet or so that we went down. But like I said, I can't remember. So anyway, we're making our way down, me and my one firefighter, the other one's at the forklift staying there, and still scanning, looking up above me just to make sure there's nothing, because I know where like I said, I know we're in between stacks. So we go down, and finally I see some heat signatures in front of me. And what I can tell is it looks like a pretty large pile of cotton smoldering. And found it. I look left, look right, just making sure that around me, like I'm trying to be careful, thinking just kind of don't want to get anything above us or behind us. And at that point, I was like, well, we're here. We got a hose line. Let's do some work, which is kind of stupid because, I mean, I know how much water it took to put these things out, but I was just like, hey, the sprinklers are kind of keeping it down, but let's do this. So firefighter starts spraying water. I'm having to use the thermal to direct this stream because we can't see, we still no visibility at all. And we're just putting water on it. I never radioed back to command that we found it. And that was kind of part of the whole, the blue card podcast that we did was I was saying, whatever your opinion of blue card is, the procedure to me helps an officer who is so task focused. When he does something, it kind of allows you to take a second to evaluate what you're doing. Because I was here, that firefighter instinct in me kicked in, let's fix this problem. But it was an unfixable problem with what I had to fix it with. So it's just like, what I should have done was stop, status change. We found the fire, we got eyes on it, approximately 50 to 100 bells on fire or smoldering at this point in front of us, and need to be reassigned or something like that. Didn't do that, just kept working. So I never had that moment kind of, yeah. So firefighter's throwing water on it, and he tells me, hey, I'm getting a little low on air. And so what do I do? Think, yeah, let's back out. No, I said, let me have the nozzle. So I take the nozzle and let's throw a little more water at this thing. Like, I'm pissed off at this fire and I want to put it out because I'm tired of these damn cotton warehouse fires. That was kind of my mindset. So like I said, that frustration, I think, played into why allowed us to be there. And I honestly thought we were in a safe position because of, like I said, thermal scanning around us, making sure there was no heat. We were not right up on it either. We were a little far a ways back from it, so shooting water at a distance.
So that aisleway that you went down, it was wide enough for a forklift, right? So what do you think? It was probably wide?
Probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 feet wide. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe a little, I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, wide enough where a forklift can maneuver back in, back out. So not terribly small.
The stacks were taller than the aisleway was wide.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And is that so? As you decided then to leave, right? His air was getting, or you were still there? Okay.
Nope. So like I said, I took the nozzle from him, and also I was thinking we're just one turn. That's all we took. It's not like I have to navigate through a bunch of hallways and rooms to get out. I mean, we can just turn around, follow the hose line, and one turn and we're out. So, and then it wasn't probably 10 seconds after I started spraying water, is whenever I felt a really just huge jolt on the hose line. I mean, it threw us forward, and a bell had fallen right at our feet, like on my side, hit me in the legs, and just kind of the way it hit, I immediately thought my firefighter behind me was crushed, just the way it hit, and the way it threw us. And I saw embers fly up in my face from that bell falling. So I immediately knew we were in a terrible spot. And I was worried about my guy behind me, but I found out he was okay really quickly. But I couldn't believe it, like fire above us, or one of these bells is smoldering above us. But what had happened though, that bell didn't just fall. One of the stacks fell behind us and hit the other stack, and it fell like this.
Oh yeah.
And it caused it to fall. And that was, just for reference, so that was 52 minutes and 11 seconds into the incident, basically, when I or around there, or when I gave the Mayday, it was 52 minutes. So it's been a while since we've been there. So like I said, this isn't something that we just like rushed into and just started working. It took a little while for this to happen, but after I figured out that we were okay, I knew we have to get out of here, and just immediately went for the hose line to follow it out. And I don't know, 4 feet, 5 feet back from the hose line there's a bell on top of it, and I could feel it because I still zero visibility, thermal's useless. So I thought, well, maybe it's just one bell. We'll jump over and find the hose line and keep going. Well, instead of doing that, I just kept climbing up cotton, and I was like, oh man, there's a lot of cotton. And so I went back down, told my firefighter, hey, I'm gonna call Mayday. So Mayday, 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 Mayday. I said it 6 times. And I said a bell is falling on our line. Follow the hose line in to find us and help us get out, but we're trapped. So didn't get the best Mayday call, but I knew we were the only unit operating in that building. And my main focus right after I gave it was to try to stay calm, just because I was like, okay, what I don't want to get, and I didn't know how or what cotton had fell at that time or where. So the 2 things that worried me was what bells have not fallen yet that could fall on us, and where are we going to go? Because I was like, if we go backwards, there was so much cotton. I was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to make it if we go that way. And so I thought, well, maybe if we go straight, I know that there's a door on the other side of that pile right in front of us that I could see on my thermal. If we can make it over that, maybe we can hit that concrete lane and just shoot straight for that roll-up door at the end. Because there was 2 roll-up doors on both sides of the building. Hindsight, that was probably the worst decision ever to make, but I had to do something. So right before we made the decision to move, though, is when my firefighter's vibe alert starts going off. And it's just like, so we just survived from almost getting crushed, and now, we have to try to get out of here and get low on air. And so I knew we couldn't just sit here and wait. And it's really hard to know like what the right decision was at that time. Like I said, probably should have tried to go back the way we came instead of going out in no man's land. So we start going. And,
you started going and you thought you were going to go back to where you came?
No, sir, we went straight forward. So my goal was to go over that pile of cotton that was smoldering, or kind of try to navigate through that and hit that concrete lane that I know that is going to lead us out all the way. Because I thought, man, if we can find that, the cotton bells are kind of like walls. You can just basically follow them. Like, I know how they're laid out for the most part, and it'll lead us to the end. But some of these bells, when they had fallen, what it did was it basically created a maze of just bells all over the place, mixed match. Some had busted open, so you have spongy cotton everywhere. So we can't find, now we're not on the concrete. We had to jump several different directions, and before you knew it, I was totally lost and turned around. I mean, just lost my sense of direction immediately. And at that point, it was just trying to get through there. I mean,
so what did the Mayday call? You called the Mayday. What did they do outside? Did they launch a RIT team? Did they just start following the hose?
So command confirmed Mayday, activated the on deck crew, so to RIT. So we had a crew come in on our hose line, and they followed it. My second firefighter that was at the forklift, luckily, he did what he was told and stayed there. He met them and told them where he thought that the collapse happened. So they go all the way in and where the cotton was buried, and they radio that they had, they'd found the collapse and were going to try to look for us. So what they did is they used a search rope and started trying to climb over it to find us. And while we were on the other side of it, trying to find our way out. And, they talked about how hard it was to just get over all that stuff to try to get to us. Because, I mean, it's unstable when you have bells that are all over the place. Even though they're heavy, they're still kind of, I don't know, like I said, they're just not stable and
Yeah.
can be difficult to climb because they basically create tall walls and areas to try to climb over. And eventually one of the guys came to the end of the search rope though, and had to make the decision whether to try to go out and find us or stay put, which he made the right decision of not going out there because he would have been with us lost. I mean, it didn't take no time to get lost because there was just no way you could see.
Yeah, I bet. So you're let me go back to this picture, just get another picture of those bales of cotton. Where is it? No, that's the wrong way. Let's go this way. So yeah, I mean, this is probably wider and than what you guys were in, but so you're launching a mission to go find an exit. And what did that lead you to? The RIT team is coming the other way. They're climbing over the bales, but in the meantime, you and the partner are going in a different direction.
Yes, sir. And as we're trying to make our way through it, we're just basically doing circles. The stacks that had come down had made it very difficult to navigate through, and it basically created new walls, and it just kept pushing us in different directions. Like I could never just go straight. So every time I would try to, I would jump over a couple bales and think that I could go, I would hit a wall of cotton and just get turned another direction. Or I would start climbing up some and just get so high that I was like, well, I don't know what this is going to lead me to. So I'd go back down. And I was trying to lead the way and have my firefighter conserve his air because I knew with him being already on fiber alert that he needed to try to just stay calm and let me do the leading so he didn't have to try to keep up and jump over the bell. So every time I came back to him though, he was right where I left him. And he was definitely getting nervous. I mean, saying, you know, I'm going to die in here, which it wasn't like he was saying it super scared. It was kind of an eerie way in the way he said it. It's like, I'm going to die in here. And it made it real. I mean, like when you hear that,
yeah,
and it's said in that tone, yeah, it's a different experience for sure.
So, all right. So also you've been in, this is your second cylinder you're on, and you've been climbing these things. You were in the sprinkler flow, so you got to be full of water, worn out, and then no real like hope, right? So I mean, this is going down the drain, and then your partner's running out of air. So did your vibro alert? How was your air status at this point?
So I was never really paying much attention to it. I was just kind of focused on trying to find a way until my vibro alert started going off. And then, yeah, that'll make you pay attention real quick. That time is running out. And I had been doing pretty good up to that point as far as not freaking out much. I mean, I knew we were in a bad spot, but I was like, we'll get out of this. But yeah, once that vibro alert and we weren't basically making any progress, it started to get to me. And it started to get worse and worse as just you keep trying to find something and you just keep getting kicked in circles and not finding your way out.
Was there any communication with a command or RIT team coming in? Were they getting closer?
So the RIT team was shouting out for us, which it was very strange because like the sprinklers were making this white noise and the smoke and steam was so thick, I think it distorted the sound a little bit too. I never heard anything. I never heard anybody yelling at me. Command would come over the radio and ask how we were doing. And I would just say, we're trying to find our way out. And a lot of times when I was trying to key up and talk to them, and I didn't know this until I listened to radio traffic, but it just kept buzzing. So they weren't really hearing what I was saying. And then once the vibro alert started hitting, it made it that much worse. So communication was awful. And I think the building probably had something to do with it too. It was kind of blocking the transmissions a little bit, being that tall metal building. And
all right, so you got to a wall, right? You eventually got to a wall?
Well, so I guess I'll just say what happened that was kind of significant for me, and a big lesson as far as that I learned in this, and try to teach other people, or at least convince other people, is once you lose that sense of control, what can happen to you. And there was one point that I can remember it. It was like I remember climbing up a stack of cotton and just feeling like, you're not making any progress. You're running out of air. My firefighter's almost out of air, and you feel almost like giving up. That hope started to fade, and I felt it, and it was strange. Like my respiration started to increase. I started to have, what I guess what you could call, I don't know, anxiety attack or whatever. I don't know if that's what it was, but it was like I wanted to just sit there and do nothing, and it almost felt like I was okay with that too, which was very strange, because it's like, even though you're starting to panic and freak out, it's also, there was like you're in a strange calm about it too, that I was like accepting this is what I'm going to die here. Because the things that were going through my head, like thinking about my family, I'm never going to see them again, and my funeral, and just this weird stuff just starts going through your head, and I allowed it to start affecting my focus. But I also I felt the change coming on me. Like I knew if I allow myself to go any further with what is going on right now, I'm going to lose it, or this is it. So I basically had to make a physical effort to stop my breathing, slow it down, completely block out all that mess that was going on in my mind, and focus on getting out. And I always like give a lot of my thanks to Dr. David Griffin, because he had done his Charleston 9 presentation a day and a half before this happened, and I went to it, and he had talked about one of the people they got out was on a wall, and they cut him out on the wall. And for whatever reason, that was just what came up in my mind, is we got to find a wall. We got to get cut out of this place. That's the only way we're going to get out of here. So that was on my mind, was just get somewhere, get to a wall, get cut out. So I blocked out all that stuff in my mind, and we said my prayers. Basically, that was all I could do at that point. And went down and grabbed my firefighter, and we went a different direction. And not too long after that, as we were making our way, just trying to find something, I found a stack of bales that was intact, and kind of ran my hand across the top of it. And I could feel on the other side of it that there was another layer. So I climb up that one, tell my firefighter just to stay there. So he does. I reach up again and can feel, well, these are all intact. So I was like, okay, we can at least get on top of these and start walking across them or something. Maybe we'll get somewhere. So jump back down. At this point, he's out of air, and go down there, grab him, climb up, and we start walking across it. And not too long after that, I see a wall beam is the first thing I see. And just the relief of finding that was incredible. I mean, at least now I know we have a chance, but we're still stuck way deep in this building, and I have no idea where we are. So there's about a 2-foot gap in between the wall and the bells, and we're about 10 feet up, I guess. It felt higher whenever looking back, but whenever we went back, it was only about 10 feet. So we dropped down to the ground in between these bells. So the wall beams were on either side of us, so we were trapped in this small little area. So we couldn't go sideways to get out. In the other direction, like I said, another beam was there, so we were just basically in this spot. So we start beating on the walls, set our pass devices off, our radio that we're on the wall. The RIT team inside can hear us, and the truck guys that were outside, they had gotten a saw out, and they were assigned to come try to find us. And we were actually on the opposite side of the building is where we ended up from where we entered. So they had to go all the way around. And it didn't take them a real long time to find us because I mean we were beating the crap out of the wall. I eventually had to start kicking it because I nearly broke my hand. I was hitting it so hard. And they fired up the rescue saw and heard it and just sitting there. And I ran out of air while we're sitting there waiting to get rescued. So start seeing the cut and just the sparks are right in front of my face because I mean there's only a 2-foot spot, so I'm trying to shrink up, but I mean just the sight of those sparks in my face, I mean it's just like the relief and knowing that we were going to get out of there. But they cut us out. We get out, and I mean even though I was relieved to be out, I was very upset as well that I got into that situation. And just so close. I mean, had we not found that stair stacked bells, or if I had just bypassed it, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you probably.
Wow. So, how long was it from when you called the Mayday to when they cut the exterior, the outside?
It was just under 12 minutes from Mayday to when we were out.
Yeah, and that 12 minutes was probably a lifetime, huh?
It was weird because it felt like a long time, but it felt really fast too. I mean, when you're running out of time, it goes by really quick.
So, injuries, were there any injuries?
Other than just some cuts and bruises, we got out injury free for the most part, and I mean some smoke inhalation too. But I mean nothing that no lasting injuries that we have problems with today. So we got lucky for sure.
Yeah, amazing story. And you're right. I mean, it's crazy. There was a fine line there between life and death, and you were teetering on that thing, but you're here to talk about it. So what can we take from this situation? I know obviously there's some risk benefit stuff there, the beginning, command, RIT, hose line, right? I mean, all those things, but what kind of 2 or 3 things do you want people to take away from your story here?
Well, one for sure. I mean, if we're talking, risk benefit, just a big building, and it doesn't have to be a cotton warehouse fire. It can be any type of structure, even like sprinkler controlled, that has some heavy smoke in there, but maybe it's not hot smoke. One is understand your thermal, and hopefully if you've never been in the cold smoke situation, or try to get yourself in one that you can use your thermal to see if it's going to be able to be useful, because ours was completely useless. But there was other settings on it though, and I wasn't really aware of them because these were newer thermals, and I hadn't really had much time to mess with them. So I don't know if maybe one of those other settings or could have helped us. Maybe test out those. But the other thing is, I mean, cold smoke is just as dangerous. I mean, especially if you get lost in it, and it's like I said, if you rely on that thermal to get you out, it's not going to work as well. But if you're getting deep into a structure and you just don't feel good about it, don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to get caught. I mean, when you have stuff on both sides of you, that stacked stuff, you're taking a huge risk by being in the middle of it. So it just may not be worth it. But moving on though to say, if something just does happen, because a lot of times, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything catastrophic to put us in these situations. I don't know, like say, how does failure happen? Suddenly or gradually, and then suddenly. So, I mean, it could be something as simple as just getting knocked off of a hose line or something that puts you out of your sense of control. Because we're already, the psychology of the physiological of a firefighter in our work, when we're doing our work, you're at an elevated state. Your vitals are elevated. You have, adrenaline going, some other hormones that are keeping you able to work in a uncontrolled environment at a high level and keep that focus. So everything's already high. and then something happens that takes you away or makes you elevate more. So it takes you out of that sense of control and kind of freaks you out. You really don't know how you're going to react to it. I would say the only way you can train for something like that and be somewhat even ready for it is to have basically trained in a way that puts you kind of in that state. And, I told you what I want to talk about was kind of like stress inoculation, which isn't necessarily like a firefighting thing or anything new, but it's basically where you just induce stress into what you do so that whenever stress does happen down the road, you'll be ready for it. So people need to, when you do your training, to prepare for whatever it is, and you don't have to do this with every time you do a drill, but you do need to be doing something that elevates you to a higher level of stress when you do whatever drills. So if it's a Mayday drill, instead of just like, hey, we're going to do this at the, on the station floor, kind of mess around with it and then call it a day, go log the training in. Good job. Like that was pretty much useless, honestly, because if you've never been in a Mayday situation, you just have no idea. And I like talking to you because you're the first person that I've been on a podcast with that's been through something and talked to a lot of other people. So it's very difficult to mimic that perfectly, but I had before done some of this, and I think that's what really helped both me and my firefighter get out of this one, because we have done hard training. Like when we do a drill or skill, we stress our body, get the heart rate elevated, the respirations up, and then you perform whatever drill it is. So make it harder, black it out, put yourself in a smoky environment like the real deal. If you have smoke machines or whatever, just try to make it difficult. I think the more difficult you can make it on yourself in training, it won't be, well, I'm not going to say it won't be as difficult, but I think you'll be more prepared for it. There's just been some line of duty deaths or close calls that I've read of where just something happened to take them out of that feeling of control in an uncontrolled environment, and they weren't able to overcome that heightened stress response.
Yeah, no, good stuff, and stuff that we've kind of touched on in Mayday Mondays. I put the graph up there because this comes to us from the On Combat, right? Colonel Grossman Christensen's work on combat stress and things like that, right? And I know you talk about that where okay, you might be really good at doing forcing an entry on a door on the blue door on the apparatus floor. You're absolutely right. But then if we take away that vision and we add somebody yelling at them, add some stress to it, and you may not be able to function. So you're right on there with we have to train. I'm not saying we want to be in black, but we definitely want to be raising that heart rate up and testing it, right? I mean, you said a great one there where you go out to the apparatus bay, you do something, and then that's it. Well, yeah, I mean, you check the box, but did you really, get yourself prepared for it? So, get up into that 120, get up a little bit, push yourself. That was good stuff. And I think you're right on. And this month, to kind of go along with what you're talking about, while this, you tried to follow your hose out and you couldn't do it, right? This is a basic skill that I think we do it in rookie school, and then we take it for granted. The last time I did this, where I worked before, I had a picture of the truck driver, right? He was a 30-year guy who was doing this, and posted it on one of the Facebook or something, and a guy commented, it's like, why is that 30-year guy got to do that? Because he needs to know it too. And probably the last time he did it, well, it wasn't, because I know I made him do it, but the last time before that was probably in rookie school. So, we got to make sure that we're good. And then when you're good at it, add some stress. right? Add some stress, because the skills are good, but if you can do them, the apparatus floor, you're probably not going to have a fire on your apparatus floor. You're going to be in some place you've never been in before, 2 a.m, hot, smoky, and kind of crazy. So this month I want you guys to get out, practice this stuff, and then add some stress to it. Get some loud music. Get the pass alarms going off. Have somebody honking horns or beating on pots and pans. Do it after you exercise. Go run around the firehouse or get on the treadmill or something and get that heart rate up, and then try and do it, right? And then another one too is to do these simple skills, but then make air a premium. We did some before where we were sharing a bottle while we had to do simple tasks, right? You're really good at rolling hose. Everybody does that. But can you do it without air? Again, you're probably not going to have to do it on a fire ground, but it's about the stress. It's about the stress reaction and getting you out of your comfort zone and practicing that. All right, man. So really good. It's a crazy story. I still can't. Maybe they should stop burning bales of cotton in warehouses. But I guess it's going to keep happening. Lubbock, it said, I read that Lubbock is like the major, right? The biggest producer of cotton in the world or something. So I'm sure you're going to keep going to cotton warehouse fires. Hopefully they'll, be less stressful than that one was.
Yes, sir. I don't think we plan on going in unless it's absolutely life safety necessary. So just it's not worth it at all.
Yeah. Again, back to I just want to, maybe you have some, but if you go back to the hose following thing, right? A couple of ideas there. You guys, maybe you've heard some of those sayings. What do you guys use for following hose?
I've heard the smooth bump to the pump. I mean, just whatever helps you remember it, though. And but main thing.
I happened to watch a video yesterday from another one of your Texas friends from Houston, and he was talking about smooth sailing, right? When you come up to the smooth part of that coupling, if you get to that first, you're smooth sailing on your way out. So I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, throw a bunch of hose all around and make it difficult. I mean, it's okay to don't make it where it's you
impossible.
Can't absolute success or have success with it, because then it's pointless at that if you do it to that level. But make it as hard as possible with the possibility of success.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, any last word before we wrap this up?
I would say also just the details matter too. Again, going back to Dr. David Griffin, just that night when he had said, talked about your bottle being full, 4,500 PSI, at least that's what we are. And, we changed our bottles out that night before that happened to 4,500 because they were, I don't know, the ones that we had were probably, 38, 3,900 PSI. And, 500 PSI could have been the difference also, whether we made it out or not. And taking good care of your stuff, knowing your equipment. I mean, that the saw that they rescued us with started on a very really cold morning. Internal combustion motor. I mean, they don't usually work too well on a cold morning like that, and it fired right up. Those guys at that station, and they're squared away. They take good care of their stuff. They do their checks. They maintain their equipment well, and they know how to use it. Even though a lot of bad things happened, a lot of good things happened too that made this one successful. And just we always say that complacency can kill, and luckily there was no complacency in this one, other than just, like I said, my attitude that put me in a bad situation. And just realize that all these things that we do, these techniques, these tools, whatever, if you do not train with it, if it just sits there, you're not going to know how to use it. Your focus is going to be so don't know, just deluded in one thing, trying to get out and doing whatever you can. I mean, I completely forgot about my second firefighter at the forklift. 100% never even thought about him. And I told him how terrible I feel about that, but it was just like, it was me and the guy next to me. And everything else, even the radio, it was like I just couldn't say anything. And I was just so focused on, we just got to get out of here. And I didn't use any tools. I didn't use any rope. It was just everything, just total mind dump. And I think if you just don't prepare for it, which, you know, the odds are probably that hopefully nothing ever does happen, but there is that chance. So make sure you practice the firefighter survival techniques, do them often. And when you do them, you got to stress yourself out.
Well, I appreciate you, your honesty. You know, you reflect back and say that your attitude was one of the contributing factors to your being in that bad situation. So, embrace the suck, right? We know that some of these things that we do suck, but if we don't do them right, even the little things, right, it can impact us. So embrace the suck, finish the mission, everybody goes home, right? All these kinds of things play into that. It's not just the skills. And I think we saw this in last month's, we had a firefighters close call in Virginia. One of the things that they credit with their survival was mindset. So one of the things you credit with getting in trouble was your mindset. So all those things are impacting. Be good at your equipment, be good at your putting your gear on, be good at pulling hand lines, but also have that mindset, right? Thanks. I really appreciate it, Philip. That was good stuff, man.
Yes, and thank you so much for allowing me on and tell my story again.
Well, I hope you're passing this on. I know you said you're at training, but you're going to get out and come to operations. But hopefully those 3 years you spent there, you know, you told your story and it made an impact. Hopefully somebody listens to our hour podcast and it makes an impact, and they get their mind right and get their mindset and survival right. Thank you. That's it for the February Mayday Monday. Thanks to Captain Grandon for coming in, sharing his story. Thanks to Peter, our producer. Thanks to Fire Engineering. Again, that was Mayday Monday for February 2023. Come back again in March. Hopefully we'll be looking at historic rapid intervention, Mayday, fire, line of duty death, to look at that in March. So again, thank you, and we'll see you next month.